Okay, so I finally wanted to talk about the Uvalde school shooting. I was waiting to see, what came out, and it seems like each day that goes by, there's conflicting stories, new things are coming out. It's just a mess. So I'm just gonna go on and just say what I know, say what I've heard today. Initially, I'm gonna read what I wrote from what I knew yesterday or 2 days ago, and then go on to what may have changed, what may have been added. And I don't know if I'm going to edit this perfectly. If I make mistakes, I might just skip over it and keep it moving. But yeah, I'm just going to explain the whole thing from what I know, what I read, and everything. So here we go. Also, TikTok is so particular about what you say. They have flagged many of my posts because of, the topic at hand. So I might have to censor some things or spell it out. So if I do, that is why. On May 24th, 2022, 18-year-old Salvador Ramos decided to kill his grandmother and then go inside of an elementary school to kill children. A deep dive into his past would show a troubled life and gave mention of what may have led this young teen to commit, this crime. Salvador was born in North Dakota on May 16, 2004. During his childhood, he was bullied relentlessly due to his speech impediment, a lisp, and for being poor, only to go home and deal with a rough home life. A family member would tell the Washington Post that Salvador's mother was on drugs, which led to a troubled home life. There are no reports about his father. Because of this, he began to lash out at others, which increased as he got older. An 18-year-old friend would tell the Washington Post that over the course of their friendship, Salvador's mental health began to decline. He described one incident where he met Salvador at the park and noticed cuts all over his face. When he asked Salvador what happened, Salvador blamed it on a cat. He later admitted to his friend that he had cut his own face with a knife and that he did it for fun. His strange behavior would isolate him from his friends as he continued to speak of disturbing actions. He once told a friend that he wanted to join the Marines so that he could kill people. The bullying of Salvador continued as he posted a picture of himself wearing dark eyeliner. This picture garnered negative attention and he was sent homophobic derogatory terms. Now, I'm going to sidebar for a second. When all of this happened initially, there were some rumors that he was bullied for being gay or dressing as a woman. And there were pictures circulating of a man that looked like him dressing as a female. However, that was not him. And there are no indications that he was gay. And even if he was, there was no reason to be bullied for it. But those pictures were somebody else who unfortunately has been, gained a lot of attention that they didn't want. But that was not Salvador. So another sidebar, I could only find 2 pictures of Salvador, and I found another picture of him while holding a gun, and of course I can't post that, so this is why I keep posting the same 2 pictures. Anyway, Salvador will begin to wear all black, grow his hair out, and wear military-style boots. He also enjoyed egging cars and shooting at random people with a BB gun, all indications of what was to come. While Salvador's interaction with the outside world was difficult, he had a very good social life online. He would often visit different apps and hang out with others in live streaming rooms. In March, Salvador posted on his Instagram the issues that he was having with his mother over Wi-Fi. In the video, he could be seen screaming at his mother, Adriana Reyes, because she was kicking him out. The cops eventually arrived at the residence and he continued to curse and berate his mother. And this is what led him to live with his mother, Cecilia Gonzalez. On his 18th birthday, Salvador bought an AR-15, and within the next couple of days, he will buy 375 rounds of ammunition and another AR-15. After purchasing the guns, he posted them on his social media, which I told you I cannot post, but he does have them there. And he even tagged a woman, bragging about his guns. He then messaged her and he wrote this: "You gonna repost my guns?" And she says, "What?" And he said, with a question mark, basically reconfirming, "Are you going to repost my guns?" And she said, "What? What does your guns got to do with me?" And he said, "Just wanted to tag you." Now, he had, this woman did not know him. She only knew him through a chat. And she says, "But why?" And he says, "I don't know. Be grateful I tagged you." And she said, "No, it's just scary for real." And he says, "How?" And she said, "I barely know you and you tagged me in a picture with some guns." And he says, "Ugh, I guess." And then this is the day of the shooting, which was May 24th, 2022. And he writes her and he says, "Hey," and she says, "Hello." He says, "I'm about to," and she says, "What? About to what? Good morning." And he says, "I'll tell you before 11. Good morning." And she said, "Good morning, what?" And he said, "I'll text you in an hour." And she said, "Oh, okay." And he says, "But you have to respond. I got a little secret." And he said, "I want to tell you." And she said, "Well, I might be taking a nap because I'm really sick, but if I'm awake, I will." And he said, "Bet." And she said, "Bet, bet." And he says, "I'm going to air out." And she said, "What?" And then she said, "Hi." Well, she didn't know all that was about to occur, and that was a little secret that he had, and he wanted to really tell her. And in the hour, he would, devastate the town and the state and the nation. He later on went on Facebook to say, "I'm going to Sh00ting my grandmother." 30 minutes after writing this post, he did shoot his grandmother in the face, leaving her in critical condition. He then updated his followers by saying, "Sh00ting my grandmother. I'm going to Sh00ting in elementary school." 15 minutes later, he was at the Robb Elementary School. And the reason why I am spelling some of this and not spelling others is because he's saying it as an action. So I don't want TikTok to think that this is what I'm about to do and then have the feds show up here. So this is why I'm spelling it out when he's speaking for himself. Now, Salvador's grandmother was able to call police after her grandson fled and was airlifted to a nearby hospital. She had surgery and is in recovery. I don't know if it's critical condition, if she's stable, but she did make it out of surgery. While on the run, Salvador crashed his car into a ditch near the elementary school. He left his car after taking his guns and wearing a tactical vest. As he ran towards Robb Elementary School, he shot at two people that were attending a funeral. Next, he shot at a school security officer before entering the school around 11:30 a.m. Reports state that he was inside the classroom for almost an hour before the attacks happened. The classroom that Salvador entered happened to be that of Eva Morales and Irma Garcia. So I hope that I'm saying everybody's name right. I'm not sure how to say everybody's name right, and sometimes I still mess it up. So pardon me, it's not intentional. All the students were in fourth grade. The students actually had an award ceremony that day, which means that many of the parents, saw their children and had attended before the incident happened. And their school break was actually supposed to be 2 days later. When police arrived, which included local police, state police, and 80 Border Patrol officers, they were initially at a standstill due to Salvador barricading himself in the classroom. Salvador would go on to murder 19 children and 2 adults. He then had a shootout with the police, injuring 2, and was fatally shot by law enforcement. So many family members were upset over the fact that the suspect was in a classroom for about an hour prior to any intervention. And CNN report actually says that officer stated that there was not sufficient manpower at the time, and their main primary focus was to preserve any further loss. So they started breaking windows around the school, trying to evacuate children and teachers while all of that was going on. Another police officer who did not want to be named, he said that the officers on the scene needed better tactical training. The situation could have been over quick if they had better tactical training, and we as a community witnessed it firsthand. So I'm going to show you a news clip of a reporter actually interviewing an officer.
I do understand, but there was a period of time when the gunman was in the school and there were law enforcement officers on scene. And those law enforcement officers that were here during that period were not going in, correct?
Well, as I mentioned, there was 2 officers that did make entry when that shooter was making entry into that schoolway. So there was an immediate response. And right after that, we had a special response team that arrived, as I mentioned earlier, that was comprised of federal law enforcement officers, local police officers, a county deputy. They all made entry into that school. Then you had other officers that were trying to evacuate children and teachers by breaking windows around the school, trying to pull children and teachers from those windows, trying to evacuate them to preserve any further loss of life. So there was an immediate response. But again, trying to establish exactly a timeline, we're still working on that right now. That's all part of the investigation.
Understood. Again, what I was just trying to establish is between the time when those officers were first met with gunfire and then the attempt that did ultimately break down the door, what was the nature of that pause between those 2 periods? That's what I'm trying to get at there. And it is during that period that we are now hearing stories about parents who arrived on the scene. The Washington Post spoke to Javier Casares, who is the father of Jacqueline Casares, who was killed here. And Javier told the Washington Post He says, there were 5 or 6 of us fathers hearing the gunshots, and police officers were telling us to move back. We didn't care about us. We wanted to storm the building. We were saying, let's go, because that's how worried we were, and we wanted to get our babies out. So these fathers were willing to go in. Why were they stopped?
Right, I can tell you right now, as a father myself, I would want to go in too, but it's a volatile situation. You have an active shooter situation. We're trying to preserve any further loss of life. We cannot have, and as much as they want to go into that school, we cannot have individuals go into that school, especially if they're not armed. So we also have officers that arrive on scene. There's so many different components involved in an active shooter situation. We have officers that arrive on scene trying to set up a perimeter, so we cannot have any other individuals try to go into that school. But I understand, and I completely understand, because I can tell you as a father myself, I would want to go into that school whether I was armed or not armed to save my child. But again, it's a very volatile situation. There's so many components involved, a lot of unanswered questions, and that's what we're trying to provide by doing a thorough investigation.
Because of the gun used in the crime, some of the children were unrecognizable, and parents were asked to submit a DNA test in order to confirm the bodies of the children. As time went on, the names of the victims were released. Alexandria Rubio was 10 years old. Her 10-year-old cousin, Jacqueline Cazares, would also be identified. Alethea Ramirez was 10 years old. Her father stated she loved to draw and wanted to grow up and become an artist. She had just entered a drawing to the Doodle for Google contest. Anne-Marie Jo Garza was 10 years old and initially missing per her family, but later identified as one of the victims. She was shot and killed while trying to dial 911. Annabelle Guadalupe Rodriguez was 10 years old. She was also initially thought to be missing, but was later found and identified. And as you can see, she was in the award ceremony I was talking about earlier. I just wanted to go back to say that Anne-Marie's father is actually a police officer in Uvalde. Eliana Cruz Torres was 10 years old. She enjoyed softball and was excited about her upcoming game that was supposed to take place the day of the shooting. Elena Garcia was 9 years old. She was the second of 5 girls and enjoyed cheerleading as well as basketball. Her favorite movie was Encanto. She often talked about her quinceañera, where she wanted to wear a purple dress. Her family describes her as a big help and always willing to babysit and cook for the family. She also had a video that she made for her father that he uploaded, so I will show.
Dad, I love you so much, and I wish you could come to my birthday, but Dad, you could be at work, so I made this video, and my mom could show you the surprise she made me, and when you get out of work, I'll be there for you. I love you, Dad. And you can send me a video too. I'll be happy. I can poet and I love you, Dad. Bye.
Eva Morales was a 44-year-old teacher. She had been a teacher for 17 years and was married to a police officer who now worked for the school district. Her husband was one of the responders on the scene, and he was shot at by Salvador, but he suffered no injuries. Eva's aunt wrote, "My niece Eva lost her life protecting her students. It shouldn't have to be like this. Teachers, parents, and students afraid to go to school or send their kids to school." And Eva's daughter, Adeline, actually wrote a long, beautiful message for her mother, and I will read that as well. She writes, "To the half that makes me whole, Mom, I have no words to describe how I feel right now. Tomorrow and for the rest of my life, I never thought that I would be here writing this type of post for you. Mom, you are my hero. I keep telling myself that this isn't real. I just want to hear your voice. I want to hear you talking to our dolls with that silly voice you make so high that wakes everyone up in the morning. I want to hear you say, 'Nanas, wake up already, man.' Because I kept snoozing my alarm. I want to hug you one last time, and I want to feel the calluses on your hands because you were not only a teacher during the day, but the most hardworking CrossFitter in the afternoon. I want to be able to get out of work and expect your call at 4:30 every day because that's the first thing you would do as soon as you got out. I want to see you sitting on the couch you claim was only yours, sitting with our dogs. I want to send you TikToks and say them over and over until Dad gets tired of us. I want to annoy you and wake you up from naps just so you can check on my chickens and make sure I didn't undercook it. I want to sing karaoke with you and hear you sing, shine bright like a diamond in your loudest voice. I want to fight with you for the stupidest things and then laugh with you after. I want everything back. I want you to come back to me, Mom. I miss you more than words can explain. My beautiful mom, thank you for the funniest memories. Thank you for the best times of my life. Thank you for being my best friend. Thank you for being the best mom anyone could ask for. You are so known by many now, and I'm so happy that people know your name and that beautiful face of yours, and they know what a hero looks like. I don't know how to do this life without you, but I will take care of Dad. I will take care of our dogs, and I will forever say your name so that you'll always remember. Eva Morales, 4th grade teacher at Robb Elementary, who selflessly jumped in front of her students to save their lives. My heart will forever be broken. My best friend, my twin, was taken from me. Thank you for loving me in the best ways and for raising me to become so strong. Everyone who knows you knows how outgoing and funny you were, and I will miss your laugh forever. I want to thank you, Mom, for being such an inspiration to me. I will forever be so proud to be your daughter. My sweet mommy, I will see you again. Thank you so much to everyone who has reached out during this difficult time. My family will always be grateful for all the love and support. Thank you for remembering my mom and sharing what a hero she was. My condolences go out to all the other families who are affected by this tragedy. God bless you all. Please hold your mamas tight for me. And this is the picture of Eva and her daughter, Adeline. Irma Garcia was a 46-year-old 4th grade teacher. Her aunt would state she sacrificed herself protecting the kids in her classroom. She died a hero. She was loved by many and will be truly missed. Irma became a teacher 23 years ago, and she was married for 24 years, and she had 4 children. 2 days after the death of his wife, Irma Garcia, Guadalupe Joe Garcia can be seen walking towards a cross bearing her name, where he set flowers, and he walked away. Hours later, he would die from a heart attack. And some people say that he died from a broken heart, which I can definitely agree with. So it's so sad that both of the four children lost both of their parents within 2 days, all because of a selfish act of one. And that is the ripple effects of murder. You have the S word, you have, kids growing up and hurting others, or people dying from grief. So apparently the couple were high school sweethearts. As I said, they were married for 24 years, had 4 children, and it's just very sad. So please keep their 4 children in their prayers. They had 2 GoFundMes, and one actually reached 500,000 and the other reached 2 million. So this is awesome for their kids to hopefully have, so they can continue to get therapy, or they can live, somewhere stable. I believe they said the youngest was in 7th grade. I don't know how old their oldest is, but that is just in addition to an already tragic story. So rest in peace, Joe. Next, we have 10-year-old cousins Jayla and Jace. Family members state that Jayla loved to dance and do TikTok videos. Her mother, Veronica, claims that the day of the shooting, Jayla did not want to go to school. She asked her father if she could stay home, which was unusual for her. But unfortunately, she did go to school that day. Jace's uncle, Umberto, wrote a Facebook post which contained both children with angel rings. He would write, "My baby's going to miss them like crazy. We loved you so much. I'm just so lost right now. Fly high, my beautiful angels." Veronica states that her brother, who is the father of Jace, is having a very difficult time coping with his son's death. Jose Flores Jr. was 10 years old. His uncle, Christopher Salazar, would write, "I miss you and I love you." And as you can see, he also attended the awards ceremony that day. Layla Salazar was 10 years old. She was a winner of 6 races at Robb Elementary's Field Day. She also loved dancing, singing, and making TikTok videos. McKenna Lee Elroy was 10 years old. She was initially reported missing, but then later confirmed to be one of the victims. She was described by a family friend as a loving child who recently bought a friendship bracelet for one of her friends. Monte Rodriguez was 9 or 10 years old. I've seen both, so I'm not sure. But she also attended the awards ceremony earlier that day, and she was an honor roll student. Miranda Mathis was either 10 or 11 years old. She was initially missing but later confirmed to be one of the victims. Her cousin would write on her Facebook, "My sweet baby cousin, we loved you dearly." Nevaeh Bravo was a 9 or 10-year-old student. Her death was confirmed later by her cousin. Rogelio Torres was 10 years old. His family waited 12 hours for his confirmation that Rogelio was one of the victims. His family describes him as very intelligent, hardworking, and helpful. Tess Mata was 9 or 10 years old. Her death was confirmed by her sister, Faith. Her sister would write, "I honestly have no words, just sadness, confusion, and anger. I'm sad because we would never get to tag team on mom and dad again and tell each other how much we mean to each other. I'm confused because how can something like this happen to my sweet, caring, and beautiful sister? And I'm angry because a coward took you from us." Uzziah Garcia was 9 years old. His grandfather told news outlets that Uzziah and his sister lived with him for about 5 years. He states that his grandson never was in trouble, never had trouble, never showed any signs of trouble. He loved football, baseball, and video games, and he described his relationship with his grandson as very close. Xavier Lopez was 10 years old. He is described as funny and had a smile that could not be forgotten. Hours before his death, he was awarded with a certificate for being on the honor roll. So that in total was 19 children and 2 teachers, and may they all rest in peace. Now, after the shooting, of course, Salvador's family began to speak out. So you had his mom, Adriana. She came out and said that she was shocked about what her son did because he was not a violent person, and that he was a loner and had issues making friends, but that her relationship with her son was fine. She also stated that she prayed for the families and for all the children because they had no part in this. However, she recently did a little interview that caused a big stir.
Just get some new information into CNN. The mother of the shooter was interviewed by CNN affiliate Televisa. Listen to what she had to say.
I have no words. I have no words to say. I don't know what he was thinking. He had his reasons for doing what he did, and please don't judge him. I only want the innocent children who died to forgive me.
What do you tell their families?
Forgive me. Forgive my son. I know he had his reasons.
What reasons could he have had?
To get closer to those children, instead of paying attention to the other bad things. I have no words. I don't know.
Only grief.
Now, a lot of people were not feeling her statements, especially the statement of he had his reasons, because there was no reason to do this, and she couldn't even give a reason. What I saw was a mom who seemed to be distraught. I can't imagine what it's like to have the whole world judging you and coming after you for what your son did. However, her statements did not help. A lot of people will not forgive her son. And I understand that she wants forgiveness for her own sake, but the world isn't ready. It just happened. And he did not have any reason to do this. And whatever reason she thinks he did, she did not explain. And to get closer to the children, I didn't even understand that part. But yeah, that did not work out in her favor. And a lot of people are mad. They also interviewed his grandfather, Rolando Reyes. Now, Rolando says that he has no idea that his grandson had a gun. Now, apparently Salvador worked at Wendy's and he was able to save enough money, I believe about $2,000, to purchase the 2 guns and ammunition. And his family said that, they had no idea that he was planning this and that he even had the gun.
Would he spend a lot of time in his room alone?
Yes. Sometimes he would go. I'd take him to work with me. Not all the time, but I would take him to work.
And it didn't seem like he went to school very often.
No, well, this past year he didn't go to school. He didn't graduate, but he didn't go to school.
Why?
I don't know. You tell them, and they think they know kids nowadays. They know everything.
Did you notice that he was growing disturbed? Was he becoming upset? Was he any different?
He was very quiet. He was very quiet.
Everybody says he almost didn't talk very much.
No, he didn't talk very much.
Did he talk to you?
Oh, just when we go to work or here or there,
What kind of
very, very, very seldom.
What kind of things would you talk about?
No, we never did have a conversation. Just I remember he would tell me sometimes. I remember when I was little, I would carry him, and he would tell me things like that.
Why didn't he live with his mother?
they had what you call it, probably problems or something.
And so it was his birthday last Monday? Turned 18?
Yeah, on the
16th.
On the 16th or something. Yeah, last week I think it was birthday.
Yeah.
My wife took him to Applebee's to eat supper or dinner or whatever. It's a shame.
Did you know that he bought those weapons?
No. Like I said, I don't like weapons. I
Yeah.
cannot be around weapons.
Because you have a record.
Yeah.
And it's illegal for you to actually
Yeah,
be around.
that's right. I cannot be around guns. I hate when I see all the news, all those people that get shot. I'm against all that. I say, why do they let these people buy guns and all that? Those stupid whatever they shoot.
And Rolando, when you heard about the shooting, what did you do? Did you even know that it was your grandson?
No, the neighbor called me. He told me she had been shot. And when I came over here, he told me that he had taken off on the...
And your grandson didn't have a driver's license, right?
No.
He didn't even know how to drive.
No.
What went through your mind when you heard?
I didn't say
It's your
nothing.
grandson.
It still hasn't sunk in yet.
And so, did he ever talk about guns or weapons with you? Did he talk about being upset or angry?
No.
Saying it came out of the blue. If you could have done anything differently,
Oh,
would you have done?
I didn't know he had weapons or nothing or this or that there. If I would have known, I would have reported him.
You would have reported your own grandson.
Yes. Because I'm against all that.
I can't imagine the guilt that the grandfather has because, his grandson was living with him at the time all this happened. But he seems to be really upset by this whole thing for sure. So after all these events happened, Salvador Ramos' father actually came out and spoke, and this is him, and he actually has the same name, Salvador. So he had an interview with the Daily Beast, and he said that he wanted people to know that he was sorry for what his son did. He says, I never expected my son to do something like this. He should have just KILLED me, instead of doing something like that to someone. He goes on to say that he was at work the day of the shooting and only learned of it when his own mother called to tell him. In a panic, he started calling the local jail, asking them if his son was there. Eventually, he was told that, the police officers killed his son. And he says, they killed my baby. I'm never going to see my son again, just like they're not going to see their kids, and that hurts me. He says that his son was a good person who stuck to himself, and he has no idea why his son became violent or why he went to the school that day. He said that he did notice some changes in his son in recent months. His son had bought a pair of boxing gloves and started testing them out at the local park. And he told his son that somebody was going to beat him up. And his son, was starting to just act different. That's what he says, that his son was just starting to act different. He says that he hadn't spent a lot of time with his son because he worked outside of Uvalde, and that because of the COVID precautions that his son refused to speak to him and was getting frustrated, and so he had not seen his son in a while. He also faults his ex, Adriana, who is the mother of Salvador, for not buying him more school supplies and clothes. He said his son was bullied at school for wearing the same high-water jeans every day, and that was the reason he ultimately dropped out of high school. So it seems like, he's pointing a finger at the mother instead of maybe pointing a finger at himself or maybe not trying hard enough to, granted, I don't know, I'm just on the outside looking in, but he's not taking responsibility for the lack of involvement he was in his own son's life for whatever reason. And if he knew all this, then he should have did more. They should have been able to co-parent. Why didn't his son go live with him? Maybe it's because his son was in that high school, but it's crazy. So it just seems like it's a lot of family dysfunction, a lot that's going on. And I do believe that changes were seen in him by the rest of the family. They just did not want to say it because it might make them look bad. So that actually goes into some things that I heard of after the incident where they claim that Salvador was bullied. So some of his classmates say that, yes, he was bullied for different things. Others say that he was actually an aggressor who engaged in multiple fights and he was harassing, the girls in his school. So that could have been because he was bullied. But another classmate said that he actually wasn't bullied. He was a bully.
High school senior Ivan Arellano said when he received this message from his friend last night, It broke his heart. He knew Layla Salazar, one of the children killed inside Robb Elementary. Her older brother is Ivan's good friend.
Whenever we were young, she would mess with us whenever we would all hang out together. And, yeah, I feel bad for Nick.
Ivan also says he knew the gunman well and described him as a bully.
Salvador Ramos was a boy who was not bullied. He would try to pick on people but fail, and it would aggravate him. I would like to get that out of the way. He was not bullied. He, prior, and I don't see this covered, and I'm going to put this out there, he would hurt animals. He was not a good person.
Ivan is hurting, and he wants his friend to know he is deeply sorry for his loss.
All of your friends love you, Nick, and we want you to be okay, and we're here for you.
So who knows? Was he bullied? Was he not bullied? We don't know. You know, sometimes being bullied can turn you into an aggressor, or sometimes I think people are just born with it. And of course, hurting animals is like the key sign of being disturbed, and probably you're going to hurt others or kill others when you get older. But I wanted to piggyback on something his father did mention, that his son was having issues with his grandmother. He was mad over a phone bill, and he often complained about the grandmother that he did end up shooting. Salvador Sr. did offer to have his son come live with him, but his son was like, he didn't want to go over there because of the lack of Wi-Fi. This is the thing with this child and Wi-Fi. I don't know what's going on, but I guess, the youth is just addicted to Wi-Fi, and it's just little things that would irritate him before going off. Salvador Sr. also has a daughter who is 21, who is Salvador Jr.'s sister. She's in the Navy, and she also has no relationship with her father. And Salvador Jr. also complained that she did not spend a lot of time with them. So there's a lot going on within that family. So, of course, there's been a lot of rumors about the police lack of involvement, that they waited too long, I've heard rumors that they rescued their own children and didn't rescue, the others, that they arrested, family who was trying to get in to help their children. And there's just been a big problem. But the latest thing that came out was that it was reported initially that Salvador actually barricaded himself into the classroom where he shot the 19 kids. It was shot and killed the 19 kids and the 2 teachers. However, that has been dispelled, and I'm going to play that clip.
The active shooter situation, you want to stop the killing, you want to preserve life, but also one thing that, of course, the American people need to understand is that officers are making entry into this building. They do not know where the gunman is. They are hearing gunshots. They are receiving gunshots. At that point, if they proceeded any further, not knowing where this suspect was at, they could have been shot. They could have been killed. And at that point, that gunman would have the opportunity to kill other people inside that school. So they were able to contain that gunman inside that classroom so that he was not able to go to any other portions of the school to commit any other killings.
So as it seemed that the gunman did not barricade himself as it was initially reported, but somehow the police were able to contain him in a classroom full of students where he ended up killing 19 and killing 2 teachers. So I really assume between the time it took to go in there and how he got into the classroom, there will be some lawsuits thrown out there. I'm pretty sure the family is going to try to sue. Now, I don't want to come down hard on the police because I don't know what it takes to be an officer. I don't know all the rules, but that is just awful to know that he was pushed in the room, or however they got him in this room locked with other children. And on top of that, it states that the kids were calling 911 and asking for help, and I guess the police were just waiting outside. And, as they go on, they hear more gunshots and they're still calling for help. One survivor actually talked about this. 11-year-old Mia Sorello actually told CNN that after the gunman had targeted her 4th grade class, as well as many of her friends, he moved to an adjoining classroom. And while he was next door, Mia said that she and a friend managed to grab their teacher's cell phone to call 911, telling the dispatcher, "Please come, we're in trouble." Fearing he would return, Mia actually took some of her classmates' blood and rubbed it on herself, and she played dead, and this is how she was able to survive. She was taken to the hospital later on where she was treated for gun fragments. But other than that, she survived, and hopefully mentally she can continue to survive. Another student and survivor will also recount his day.
Perez said an officer helped him and his classmates escape through a window, but not before the shooter had killed his friends.
McKenna, Tess, Annabelle.
Do you ever want to go back to school?
I don't want to know what, because I don't want anything to do with another shooting.
Another survivor by the name of Adeline Garza, who is 9 years old, talked about her day. She said that she took shelter in a classroom and practiced what she was taught, which was to sit down and stay at level 0. That means no talking and to be quiet. She was joined by some friends who knew through lockdown drills to turn off the lights and avoid drawing attention to themselves. While they hid, 19 of their schoolmates and 2 teachers were fatally shot. And Adeline says people kept saying that it was fireworks, but as she heard loud popping coming from the 4th grade building, she realized no, it was not fireworks, because fireworks do not sound like that. Adeline then goes on to say that she had a cousin who tried to escape out of the window, and while escaping, she sliced herself by glass. She had another cousin who had her nose cut off after she was shot in the face and leg, and a third cousin, she says, had a bullet go through her arm. Fortunately, she is home and she made it through surgery. Adeline says, I can't sleep at night because when I start to sleep, it just comes through my mind. Now, I do wonder if her cousin is Kendall Alazar. Now, she actually had surgery on her arm. She had 2 surgeries and is recovering. So that's awesome. There is another survivor that I saw on a GoFundMe, and his name is Noah. His family says that he endured a gunshot wound that will require physical and motor therapies, along with long-term cognitive care for the mental trauma of the shooting. So they're asking for donations for that, which I feel the state should be responsible for any therapy that they need or any medical bills or something, because this was crazy. Now, I'm not sure if there are any other survivors. I think there are, I think that another adult was shot. I'm not sure, but these are the survivors that I know so far. So God bless them. So, of course, on top of all of that, you have the gun debate. Should there be gun control? Should, no one wants their Second Amendment rights taken away from them. And this is what Governor Greg Abbott had to say. He's the governor of Texas. Now, Salvador was able to purchase his gun without a license. I guess he had an ID, and he was 18. So some are saying that you need to have a driver's license and you need to be 21. Some are saying that you don't need guns out here like AR-15. Maybe that should just be for police or for the army, which I agree with. I don't personally agree with taking away guns completely, but I do think there needs to be a better mental check, a better background check, and certain guns do not need to be sold. So I am curious to know what you guys think. I'm curious to know what Texas will do now and all the rest of the states. This is a big hot topic about, gun control. It's always been, but this has really kind of increased it because we had the shootings in Buffalo. We had this one. I mean, it's a lot going on within this month. So during a conference that the Governor Abbott had, there was a former state representative by the name of Beto O'Rourke, and this was about gun control. And basically, there's just a divide in what they feel is right. The Democrats feel like there should be gun control. The Republicans feel like, well, we should have gun rights. O'Rourke feels that, AR-15s and AK-47s do not need to be in any civilians' possessions, which I agree. And they need to be reduced in numbers, so they don't need to be mass-produced. Some people believe that he's using this for his political gain, and of course others believe that, they back him. However, in February, he said that he wasn't interested in taking anything from anyone. What I want to make sure that we do is defend the Second Amendment. So that's why people are going back and forth. Anyway, as the governor was making his statement about what he thinks that they should do as far as gun laws, O'Rourke actually interrupted him.
Time I will pass the mic to Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. Excuse me. Sit down. You're out of line and an embarrassment.
Sit down and don't play this stuff.
No, he needs to get his ass out of here. Just sit in the place and talk this over. This is totally predictable with you. Sir, you're out of line. Sir, you're out of line. Sir, you are out of line. Please leave this auditorium. I can't believe you're a sick son of a bitch that would come to a deal like this to make a political issue.
So who you hear calling O'Rourke a sick son of a bitch is actually the mayor, and his name is Don Clocklin. I hope I'm saying that right, but he's the one that's actually standing up in his picture pointing, telling him to get out. So on the top of a very serious, subject here, we have both sides going at it, which does not look good at all. This is a time to really try to come together. I think there's a lot that's going on. I think people will use this as a political gain. I also feel like people are probably upset by this. I believe people want to be seen and heard or have their name out there, but it just does not look good. We are supposed to be coming together during a time that's really difficult and try to make change. And this, I'm going to put it out there, just looks ghetto. It just looks ghetto. This was not it. And apparently Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick is the one who yelled, "You're out of line," and an embarrassment. I just wanted to add that in there. So the whole press conference was really about state resources being provided to the victims. And another Texas senator actually interrupted and said that my colleagues are asking for a special session. You're getting a letter tomorrow. He continues by saying, "We've asked for gun control changes. I'm asking you now to bring us back in 3 weeks." He then apologized for interrupting the press conference, saying it wasn't to be a political stunt on his behalf. And then he walked out. So after he walked out, Governor Abbott said that all options are on the table. He also says, "Secondly, most importantly to your point, do we expect laws to come out of this devastating crime? The answer is absolutely yes. And there will be laws in multiple different subject areas. For example, I do fully expect to have every law that we passed in the aftermath of the Santa Fe shooting to be completely revisited." He also said the legislature will work to pass laws making schools safer and addressing healthcare issues related to those who commit gun crimes. So hopefully there will be change. Now, on top of all of that, Governor Abbott says that he was misled about the poor police response. He said that he was livid about what happened, and the information that he was given turned out in part to be inaccurate, and that he's just really mad about that, of course, because when he gave his press conference, he's sharing information he was told, and the information turned out to be completely wrong. So in his initial press conference, he applauded police and said that, they handled everything well and that they had an amazing courage, that it could have been worse. And the reason it was not worse was because of the law enforcement. So yeah, then he finds out later that they really kind of didn't do what they were supposed to do. And, that made him really look bad because he was standing behind the police officers, not knowing that they didn't do all that they could do or were supposed to do. And like I said, I'm not taking sides. I'm just pointing out what I read. And so then he had to renege on everything he said. And I believe I just had one point to make. There was a mention, like I said earlier, about Salvador writing on Facebook. And so I'm going to place what the governor said about that.
There was no meaningful forewarning of this crime other than what I'm about to tell you. As of this time, the only information that was known in advance was posted by the gunman on Facebook approximately 30 minutes before reaching the school. The first post was to the point of, he said, "I'm going to shoot my grandmother." The second post was, "I shot my grandmother." The third post, maybe less than 15 minutes before arriving at the school, was, "I'm going to shoot an elementary school."
So my question to that is, I have gotten in trouble for less on Facebook. So I'm not understanding why he wasn't flagged on Facebook. I don't know if Mark is so busy flagging pointless things that they just completely missed this. I'm not sure if this was sent in a message, on a post. Now, of course, I'm not blaming Facebook. I'm just wondering how they missed that. Like, how was it not triggered? And I know Texas is so focused on Instagram filters, and I'm just trying to figure out, like, how was that missed? I don't get it. So I'm wondering if some changes are going to come with that. I don't know if he coded, the Facebook message or post, because if you code it, of course, it's not going to alert. But possibly that being alerted could have saved people. Who knows? Who knows? So it's just a lot going on, and a lot more is coming out. At the end of it all, Salvador's father says that he doesn't want people to think that his son is a monster, because we really didn't know him and what he went through. And unfortunately, he's never going to be able to change that. I understand that he probably doesn't want people to think that, but people are going to think that. They're going to think he's a monster, and nobody's going to care what he went through, because whatever he went through, he didn't have to take 21 people with him, So in the eyes of many, he is a monster, and nobody cares what he went through. But I do understand the family not wanting people to look at him like that. At the end, we have 21 people who lost their lives, and others have been injured and will have to recover physically and mentally. So the ripple effect of this is not just 21 victims. It's much more, because their family are victims too, and the survivors are victims. And the wife whose husband died 2 days later, he was a victim. So this ripple effect has, it's going to cause a lot. It's going to cause a lot for the Uvalde County. Hopefully, I pray to God this will cause good changes for the future, because with every tragedy, hopefully something positive comes out of it. And, may all of those people rest in peace. You're going to have 21 funerals, 21 caskets, 21 burials, all on the same day. All their tombstones will say the same day, 21 people. And it just plays in my mind over and over. But may they all rest in peace. And please continue to pray for them, their families, and everybody affected in this. And I pray that the state of Texas can come together and do something more than argue at press conferences. As always, you guys be safe.